back, ladies and gentlemen, here to the Arena World Championship, and we've got El Clasico. We've got this big game from the spring season, now returning Wildcard Gaming, who only made 3rd place in the last cup. We expect them in 1st or 2nd every single time. Now, change my mind's out the picture. That was the team that defeated them last week, and Method Black is the target acquired here for Looney and his team. I'm Healing Star hosting for you. We have Venruki, Supertees, and Zico. And Zico, how excited have we been to have this series back on the main stage?
Finally, last time we saw them, Wildcard Gaming was the winner of El Clasico. Method and Wildcard, both of them were the teams that won the most amount of cups in spring, and they both had a pretty similar placing as well at the spring finals. Now we're back in summer, and we're gonna see what these teams have been shaking up for us in the compositional kitchen. We're gonna see Wildcard Gaming. They've been running a lot of Windwalker DK. Method Black, they've been having a lot of answers for that. And Method Black, they used to be running their Demon Hunter DK themselves. They've been opting in for a little bit more Rogue Mage now, so we're gonna see if that trend continues, or if they also have something new for us today, maybe bringing in Swapsy, who we didn't really see last week actually when they won.
Yeah, some of these teams have absolutely phenomenal bench warmers. You've got Snuts, not really playing that much for Cloud9. You've got Swapsy on Method Black. This is the Rogue Mage Druid from Method Black going up against the Druid Windwalker Elemental from Wildcard Gaming. Blind pick, first game out of 5. Wildcard Gaming versus Method Black. Winner goes through to top 3.
This is a great opportunity for Wildcard Gaming. If they can beat Method Black, they send them down to the lower bracket against Chalky Milkman, and I actually think that's a matchup that could easily go in favor of Chalky Milkman. So if Wildcard Gaming can do it right here, right now, they could just send Method Black completely out of this tournament. Potentially, we'll have to see if that does end up happening. Wildcard Gaming has selected Windwalker Elemental Shaman Restoration Druid up against the Rogue Mage Druid of Method Black, and we'll have to see what they can get done.
I think last time it ended up being an Ellie Windwalker mirror with Looney on Mistweaver, so this time Looney actually opted for Druid. I think they were expecting a mirror. This Ellie Windwalker can kind of walk the line between being able to beat pretty much every comp while also not having an advantage at the same time, so it's pretty evenly matched. But against the Rogue Mage, perhaps not, and that's why Method Black anticipated this instead of running the Windwalker Ellie themselves. They have good pressure on Zeepai, but now it looks like Wildcard Gaming are counter-engaging with crowd control into 3 members. No one can really help Waz in this position, down to about half off the back end of that first hit, but now recovered from Chaz. Method Black look to engage, crowd control into 3 members. They're switching to Looney. Zeepai is trying to protect him. He used his Glaire's Medallion and Grounding Totem to prevent himself from being interrupted to Hex Raikou during the attack on Looney, which allowed Looney to survive. But Method Black, again, I feel like they're just a step above in terms of their Rogue Mage play. I would more than love to see the Chalky Milkmen mirror them on Rogue Mage Druid, because I feel like Method Black, the one thing is that they can play to a game plan and then immediately on a dime change to a totally different game plan, even 3 steps ahead. We usually anticipate the Elemental Shaman as the target in this matchup, and so they know that Looney anticipates that and then actually go after Looney instead, putting him behind on defensive cooldowns and potentially creating openings later on if they continue to mix it up.
Yeah, Looney playing aggressive with the Feral Affinity right now, but it's Zeepai that is the one in trouble. And this is the thing, Method Black, their composition really specializes in just locking down Zeepai. There's a full blind on to Looney. He trinkets out immediately. He doesn't want to fall behind in this matchup. Touch of Death gets committed by Blizzo. Chaz throws out the Iron Bark and then tries to sit down for a drink, but Looney's going to be able to shut that down. And potentially we see Wildcard Gaming get a mana advantage in this matchup so far. They have a little bit of a lead. If Looney can stay on point and keep shutting down Chaz during these drink opportunities, maybe Wildcard Gaming can actually win this matchup.
Well, right there, he not only shut down the drink, but also got Glaire's Medallion from Chaz with a Cyclone, which could have also been an ice blocker at the end of the game. So Chaz certainly needs to be careful if that situation happens again. But in the meantime, Method Black execute crowd control and look for the kill onto Zeepai. Zeepai with Ring of Peace is protecting him for now, but Waz Shadow steps over and reconnects. Looney's trying to pick him up without using Iron Bark as there is no stun committed, but it is quite difficult to heal through the pressure that Waz is dishing out without its defense. Will he get away without committing the Iron Bark is the question now as Method Black continue pushing forward. Wildcard Gaming look like they're mixing up some of their damage. Zeepai's lobbing out a few lava bursts onto Chaz with an Earth Shock, forcing Chaz away. He's going to respect that damage, but that means that he can't Cyclone either. Looney gets switched to by Method Black as both teams keep each other on each other's toes.
Yep. Raikou forced in a very defensive position as Chaz managed to sneak away and get a drink. He recovered all of his mana and could potentially top off Raikou with that Iron Bark. Gladiator Safeguard does proc out the defensive trinket that Raikou was opting to run. Keeps him alive and forces basically Chaz to top him
Big
off.
hit.
A big swap over onto Waz. He trinkets out of the Lightning Lasso with the Cloak of Shadows, and these are the opportunities Zipai can shut out. If he's dragging Waz out of line of sight, he catches him in a Lightning Lasso. If Blizzo can get there for any sort of damage, they could take him down quite quickly. And now without a trinket, Waz is actually very vulnerable.
Yeah, Waz needs to be careful. Again, punishing the positioning of the melee DPS. Waz overextended into Wildcard Gaming territory, and he was punished for that overextension. His entire defensive lineup to stay alive was blown out. So if he makes that mistake again, it's going to be lights out, goodbye Waz. But in the meantime, Method Black are all backing Waz up to push forward for an attack. Pressure on two fronts with both Looney and Zipai in a bit of trouble. I'm curious what the mana situation is. Chaz looks like he's trying to drink, so it's potentially even at this point. Will Chaz regenerate mana? Looney goes into cat form instead, adding a bit of extra damage. I don't anticipate that Looney is running the Feral Affinity in this matchup. I feel like he would be too easy to kill, but he actually may be running the Feral Affinity. This is why Method Black target him in the first place. Chaz is drank back to full mana, setting his team up well for dampening. Touch of Death is available. They're going to go for the Lightning Lasso kill on Waz. If Looney can crowd control Chaz, it could be the end of the game. They might not even need it. Looney moves in to add a bit of extra damage. What was that heal? A gigantic Swiftman, the biggest Swiftman I've ever seen, saves Waz at what would have otherwise been the end of the match for him.
Yeah, Looney in a kidney shot. He's got his trinket, but no bark skin. Can he hold on to that precious trinket? Waz gets grapple weapon there by Blizzo. Good backup, and that's a talent we see Blizzo pick up quite frequently to defend his healer from these melee DPS. The grapple weapon, of course, is a 6-second disarm he can use onto Waz during those kidney shots. It's very effective against the Assassination Rogue if you can consistently get it off during those moments of opportunity. Waz in a Lightning Lasso once again, but without crowd control on Chaz, I feel like he's easily able to heal through it.
Yeah, Chaz is doing a good job keeping the team going here. Another swap onto Looney, another attempt at the healer's life. How will they save Looney? No grounding totem, no wind shears, no off heals. Looney dips very low as a result of a lack of support. Blizzo interrupts Raikou, at least stalling down Raikou's pressure, but Waz is still right on top of both of them. I do like the two-pronged attack here from Method Black, pulling multiple cooldowns at every attempt and every swing and developing a mana lead and keeping Wildcard Gaming pinned at the pillar so that Chaz can always be comfortable to sit down for a drink while crowd controlling Blizzo at the same time. Method Black have certainly kept their Rogue Mage skills polished despite that first spring season where I don't even think they played Rogue Mage once. And it is quite a treat to see them back on this composition that all three players are known for. They've been playing it for years at this point in tournament play. Looney tries to jump across midfield to stop Chaz from drinking. Waz is there to clothesline him. Now Looney has to make a decision. Does he keep pushing forward to stop the drink and potentially risk his own life, or pull back and let Chaz drink to full? And this is Method Black that continued to hold Wildcard Gaming in a mana chokehold.
Yeah, Raikou doing some good damage over on the Zipai. He's trying to get out of line of sight, and this is the thing. When Method Black can stall the game out for a long period of time, the Assassination Rogue damage really pays off on the Zipai, on the Elemental Shaman. It's really difficult for him to get away. This is a big attempt here. Cheap shot on Looney. Nice vanish by Waz. Does manage to get the Growth Silence on the Zipai as well. A lot of cleave damage coming in from Raikou, but he has to be careful. Big Earth Shot coming in with the big Fist of Fury from Blizzo. Forces Raikou to retreat just a little bit and play defensive. Chaz does manage to top him off, but unfortunately for Looney, he hasn't had that same opportunity on to Zipai as he falls down lower and lower. Trinket gets committed, grounding totem as well. Zipai trying to get out of line of sight. Finally, Looney can connect some heals, but he doesn't have much mana. Nice attempt over onto Waz, but he manages to survive with that trinket. He still has the Cloak of Shadows as a safety net, and he can continue this offensive push on his Zipai.
Yeah, Method Black have more defense. They're going to be able to be playing in the faces of Wildcard Gaming. Blizzo has to be on point here to try and counter-pressure Waz, but he's polymorphed. Triple Ring of Frost. All three members unable to assist. What is Blizzo going to do with this opening? I would love to see him actually go after Waz. Why did he go after Raikou? Raikou with 2 more ice blocks, Waz with no evasion. It seems, at least to me, obviously I can see everything going on at the same time, but Waz is certainly the target here for the big push on Touch of Death. Maybe the leg sweep was just a bait from Blizzo to try and get some defense from Chaz. Waz is in trouble. He's on the run, and potentially Method Black's Rogue Mage is going to be taken down here in game number 1. Waz barely holds on 10% and then immediately re-engages. Zeepai knocks him aside with the Thunderstorm, but then gets Cycloned at low health on Ironbark's defense and innervates free healing on Looney. This Cyclone is beautiful from Chaz. It could potentially be game-winning, 2 seconds away from Zeepai's Astral Shift, but if he has to use it before Vendetta, then it's GG when Vendetta comes up, so Zeepai needs to try and hold on to that as long as possible. Blizzo's Ring of Peace is zoning Waz. He can't connect and allowing Zeepai to buy time to make it to that point. Stormkeeper available for Zeepai. His next time he decides to cast Stormkeeper, his Lightning Bolts will be enhanced. He's going to cast it. Now his Lightning Bolts are going to be very big. Who is he going to go after? Looks like he's stunned up and not able to go after anyone. Druid's mana is even at this point, but Zeepai is in trouble. Blizzo's polyed. Looney is not crowd controlled. They dropped the chain a bit there. Good denial, but again, another Cyclone at low health from Chaz. If Method Black can hold on a tad bit longer, Zeepai is going to go down, Vendetta and 30. But if they kill Waz before that Vendetta, then obviously Method Black are going to lose. It's anyone's match, and in the blind pick between teams of this caliber, you need to win the blind pick. Perfect crowd control once again, and as a result, an easy kill on Zeepai. Method Black take the blind pick, and with that, the swing match advantage.
Yeah, they didn't even need the Vendetta in the end, just excellent crowd control. These Rogue Mages have been really stepping up today. We've seen some super impressive stuff, and Chaz was really on fire with some excellent low Cyclones this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot about the Druids this time around. I mean, the sap looks really flashy there at the end, but it's Chaz that sets it all up. Chaz keeps Waz alive to that point, you know, through very dangerous situations. Chaz lands low Cyclone after low Cyclone onto Zeepai, lands a couple on Looney as well, and that allows Waz to actually get that sap, you know, beautifully done here. And even though Raikou didn't get that Ring of Frost, it actually did some damage still here to Wildcard Gaming, because it allowed him to kind of stack up. That's the Ring of Frost right there, that Bash just timing out a little bit too early, and then there it is, low Cyclone from Chaz. He's gonna of course allow the diminishing returns on Looney here to reset. Another low Cyclone here, and then he swaps it over to Looney. Waz of course has that Vanish available, gonna go for that Vanish sap right there out of that Cyclone. And Zeepai, he has to duck for cover behind that pillar, which, you know, gives Looney that split second to fall out of combat after that Cyclone, and that's it, man. That's all they need.
Yeah, it was really nicely set up, actually, rewatching that. Raikou put Looney in a prison cold as ice. Zeepai ultimately willing to sacrifice at the end of that one.
Would you say put him in chains of ice?
Put him in chains of ice, I suppose. But there we go. We have Method Black 1-0 up, and we've been talking about it, right? Like, who is the top team in Europe right now? Because Europe really has a lot to prove this year. They lost BlizzCon last year, of course, Sea-Doo the victor there. They lose the spring finals to Cloud9. We really want to see Europe stepping up, and we're asking the question, who steps up? So far this year, both in spring and now summer, it's looking like Method Black.
Yeah, Method Black, I mean, this has really been the team to beat, although, like we kind of talked about earlier on in the tournament, Wildcard Gaming was getting the best of Method Black before the spring finals. This is a team, I mean, they've literally, I think they've gotten first and second in every single one of our cups so far, so
crazy.
Very consistent team, bringing in lots of different compositions. Of course, when Rogue Mage is great, that's awesome for Method Black. It's a composition they're familiar with, they know and love, but when Rogue Mage isn't necessarily the best, we've seen them bring in different compositions. Swapsy really rounding out their roster, giving them a lot of different options because of the fact that he can play Shaman at such a high level, Death Knight at such a high level, Warlock, you know, at a pretty high level from what we saw, but definitely gives their team a lot of options, and I think that's one of the reasons we've seen Method Black really excel.
It's a crazy world we live in where Swapsy can be on the bench in a team, Snuts can be on the bench in a team. These players are so crazy good at World of Warcraft, and their team, like, they can play without them and do well, but obviously when they play with them, they do just as well. We'll have to see later, obviously, the summer finals. Method Black, I think it's fair to say they will probably take one of those spots. You know, they won the first cup, looking on track to get top 3 in this cup. They need to be a team that really looks to take home one of those spots for Europe, Sid. I mean, otherwise, I really feel like Europe might just have one team at BlizzCon this year.
Now you're changing your tune
no, because I
bit.
think Method Black is going to take it.
Okay, I mean, I feel like every single tournament we think that Method Black is going to take it, and then maybe there's like last year I think it was a patch change that kind of threw them for a loop, and they've had a few setbacks as well, and it's always like, it's like a series of unfortunate events for them, so I think that they should take it based on their current level and their current trajectory. I would bet my money on Method Black going all the way and getting first place in summer, but I don't know, maybe something doesn't go their way, or maybe they don't have the right composition answered or picked up in 8.2. There's so much that's changing just this Tuesday that even though we see their path right now, but 8.2 comes in and don't know if it's the same path anymore.
I feel like one of the things about Method Black is they're a team where when they have everything sort of calculated and mapped out, they always excel. They're a team that practices quite a bit. They put a lot of thought and effort into their practice and preparations, but sometimes when they go up against the North American teams in the LAN environments, the North Americans have a little bit of a different play style. I really feel like it's something that has thrown this team off. We've seen in the last couple of years where they really haven't had the results we've kind of expected from them. So I don't know what it is about Method Black, but I feel like that is their main weakness, is just when someone throws them a curveball, they don't know exactly how to respond.
Yeah, that was, I remember there's like a funny anecdote that happened, I don't remember if it was BlizzCon last year or the year before, but Swapsy comes in calculated, expects everything, and then when a team is, like, even if they're beating him, if they're doing a strategy that he hasn't seen before, he's like, they're playing it wrong. They're not allowed to do this. This is not fair. How can they win, you know? It's like, for him, everything is calm, calculated. It's almost like does not compute when he loses because Swapsy's so used to just winning everything. And I think this is the thing. There's a few of these teams where they have all the kind of young blood talent like Waz, you know, someone who's still reasonably fresh. He's been dominating for 2-3 years now, obviously, but quite a young member of the team. And then you've got these veterans like, you know, Sea-Doo, Snut, Swapsy, and those guys, whenever there's a new patch, they seem to excel so well because they really do go through all the tool tips, make sure they understand everything, put in the hard work. And it's these rosters that are combining everything that are excelling at these tournaments, Seeker. And I mean, Method Black looks great in Europe. Method Orange looks great in North America, so does Cloud9. But obviously, going back here, Wildcard Gaming going for a similar pick. What do we think about this one?
Well, I think that this shows us that Wildcard Gaming, this was the matchup that they wanted. They expected Method Black to pick the Rogue Mage Druid. Method Black did, and they still lost, but it was a close game. They almost killed Waz at several times in that game. A smaller map, of course, is going to be nice as well for Blizz on that Windwalker, but it's also going to be nice for Waz on the Assassination Rogue. So I feel like this matchup is quite evenly matched, and it's going to come down to who plays better, who gets more low cyclones, who can set up more burst windows on their kill targets, and I feel like it's just going to be about skill here. And one thing on the discussion that was held, we can't forget that the reigning summer champion is actually Method Black. They won last summer finals last year, so it's not like they botch every single international event. We just have set a really high standard for what they, you know, for how they should play. We
literally expect them to win everything, right?
Well, we expect them to place in the finals. We expect them to place well in the finals, and I think that the criticism that you guys are giving them is fair, saying that they're not responding appropriately to curveballs into some of these super aggressive North American teams as well. I think that's fair, but they also have been performing at LAN. It's not like they choke on every single LAN. It's just been the last like 2 LANs that they choked.
Yeah, well, I mean, they did get 3rd place finishes at both of those as well. So choking for Method Black is not getting top 2, whether it's the best teams in the world or the best teams in Europe. But Method Black here, 1-0 up against Wildcard Gaming, looking to once again assert dominance.
I guess we're kind of being perfectionists here, but I feel like they're also highly critical of their own plays. That's why they see so much success, is because they always go back to the drawing board and always work on grinding further. They're never complacent, and that's definitely cost teams points in tournaments in the past. I feel like Method Orange were pretty complacent after their BlizzCon victory, and they kind of had to snap back into it to start competing for summer, which they have, which I'm glad to see. But you have to be careful when you're always at the top that you don't become complacent and let your skills slide. You always need to be advancing, even if you're number 1. Doesn't mean that you're better than your past self. You always need to be pushing forward and further beyond where your capabilities lie. Otherwise, people will catch up to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really fair. You can see Raikou, he's actually using Shadow Meld, so he used the invisibility, didn't summon his Water Elemental, and is now just using Shadow Meld. I think Method Black, they realize they can just kind of stall it out. They can wait for dampening potentially if they want to, and at that point of the game, they start developing a lead. We talked about the Assassination Rogue versus the Elemental Shaman. Later on in the game, that is where you have your advantage. It's much more difficult for Luna to heal through that damage. With the Ghost Wolf, as well, your healing is going to be limited with the effects of dampening. So we'll just have to see how long Method Black decides to stall it out. They have no idea where Raikou is because of the Night Elf Racial Shell Melt. That actually comes out right now.
I think they're stalling also because Chaz is not likely to be able to drink on this map, so the more time they can spend not spending mana before dampening, the better. Wildcard Gaming, perhaps they could have even gone for a hook point or something. I feel like Elemental Windwalker generates more pressure overall and would run Chaz out of mana faster than Rogue Mage will run Looney. I think that's likely where they're looking to get their win condition while focusing on Waz if he overextends, chasing down Zeepai. Potentially we see Method Black adapt their strategy to go after Blizzo and try and react to that play here on Dalaran. They might be forced to do it, depending on the positioning of Looney and Zeepai, because currently Zeepai and Looney, they're tag teaming at the boxes. They're able to line of sight, they're able to counter engage, and they're attacking Waz, and Waz is so overextended. So instead of overextending, Waz could just decide to attack Blizzo. Touch of Death is rolling at the moment, explodes on Waz. Iron Bark denies its damage. Blizzo switches targets. He doesn't want to attack into Iron Bark, but have his damage reduced. He jumps downstairs to avoid being Cyclone, then portals back to the pillar to support Zeepai with Waz chasing him down. Blizzo doing a good job to avoid crowd control so far. That is his main objective, is to get uptime and avoid Cyclone and avoid Polymorph, and he's doing a great job so far.
Yeah, Zeepai putting out big burst damage onto Raikou with the Lightning Lasso. Nice vortex on the shimmer of Raikou as well. Nicely done by Looney. Triggered out of the blind just a little bit earlier on. Full kidney shot now committed onto Zeepai. Looney backs him up with the Cyclone onto Waz, slowing down that attempt for Method Black. But Chaz, he's sitting. Look at him, far away in stealth, sipping on that water, recovering his mana. Waz might have to trade up Cloak of Shadows. Gladiator Safeguard, Feint going to be enough to keep him from using any major defensive cooldowns at this point in the game. But Method Black, with the way they're playing it, it's very calculated. Chaz making sure he's high on mana, and they're trying to secure that late game advantage.
Blizzo is doing a great job on point here. There's really no pressure on him in terms of damage, so he is the one that needs to build momentum and avoid crowd control to be able to build that momentum. He's doing a good job of hitting Raikou, and as soon as Raikou is in a position where he's overextending Blizzo, Blizzo then portals back to the pillar or rolls back to the pillar to avoid being crowd controlled. Then when Raikou comes close to the boxes, Blizzo switches targets again, and he's ping-ponging between the Rogue and the Mage. And this is a great strategy to run a Druid out of mana and also just get better uptime, because Blizzo can get damage on the Mage when he's close, like right now, and then as soon as Raikou moves away from the boxes, he can get damage on the Rogue, and Blizzo will have 100% uptime. Although it's not on the same target, it is at least on one target. Zeepai in a bit of trouble though. Method Black are beginning to overwhelm him. They're just combing over the boxes, pushing him over. There's no defense if they can stay on target. Zeepai's on the run, needs to stay alive for 17 more seconds. That 17 seconds is going to be an eternity right now for Wildcard Gaming if Method Black can stay on pace. Blizzo is polymorphed away. Looney gets stunned. Zeepai in a kidney shot, 7 seconds away, but in a Cyclone, unable to do it. They need to strip off that Ghost Wolf as soon as possible. Zeepai actually decides to cancel it, to put a grounding totem down to stop the crowd control, but now he lost some healing. It did buy him time to get Iron Bark, so Zeepai's denial of the crowd control allowed Looney to use Iron Bark, and that is keeping Zeepai alive. However, he likely needs to keep running away at this point in time. Waz is all over him.
Yeah, Waz, the beautiful interrupt over on the Looney. That allows Zeepai, though, a little bit of free reign to get some heals off. Full blind on Looney. He trinkets out into a full bash. At the same time, Zeepai gets caught into a kidney shot. Wildcard Gaming still not out of it yet. Looney has 15 seconds left on the Iron Bark. But it looks like Zeepai is kind of stabilizing at this point. Grapple weapon coming in from Blizzo onto Waz, and that buys him enough time to survive. That was a really nice attempt there by Method Black, but the off heals coming in from Zeepai. Looney with the Restoration Druid, they're able to recover. They can stabilize as we step foot into dampening.
This composition from Wildcard Gaming is surprising. It's actually appearing to be decently effective here against Rogue Mage Druid, and it could also be on an edge against the other compositions that Method Black have available. This could be the well-rounded roster composition that Wildcard Gaming need if they can polish it up. They managed to stay alive during a situation that any other team would have gone down in. That was an extended period of time with no defense. Raikou being bursted. Chaz was trying to drink, but if they can get an ice block for the drink, it's at least a fair trade. They need to get an ice block on this or a kill! Oh, ice blocking on 1% health. Close call for Raikou, but trades the cooldown. Now they switch to Waz. He's getting blasted. He's stunned up. He can't use Cloak of Shadows for a little bit longer. The evasions, surprisingly not using Cloak of Shadows as well. Looney gets caught in a polymorph by Raikou. Clutch plays on both sides.
Yep, kidney shot on Zeepai with a polymorph over on Looney. Zeepai could be in some trouble. What a close call that was on Raikou earlier, but ultimately it's Method Black that will end up securing the kill. A nice setup, and they go up in the series 2-0. The question for Wildcard Gaming is, what are they going to do about this rogue mage?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a question that we've been asking for these guys before, not only this year, but last year. Method Black, there have just been some metas where the thorn in Wildcard Gaming's side has been, you know, one spec of the rogue, one composition, and here again, they find themselves up against it. That said, I mean, one of the things that immediately jumps to my mind is that this team doesn't have Warwicks on it anymore. We saw Warwicks playing against the Rogue Mage earlier for Zyzon. I bet they're missing him a little bit right now.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Warwick's, he went down 0-3 as well, so I'm not sure if they miss him that much. Right now, we also saw, you know, C9 starting to drop games with Chanamo, so it's not been a great last 2 weeks for Warlocks, but Raikou here on an extremely close call, and what he does here to turn the pressure around here is that Icy Veins. The Icy Veins polymorphs are really hard to avoid as a Resto Druid, and of course he sheeps Blizzo, which puts Looney, actually Looney with a very uncharacteristic mistake there. That wasn't even an Icy Veins polymorph, so Raikou sheeps up Blizzo there to put Looney on global cooldown from dispelling the polymorph on Blizzo and then swaps it over to Looney. This is pretty textbook mage play, and then actually uses the Icy Veins later on to finish the kill. When I saw that happen, I was pretty sure that it was just an Icy Veins poly swap. Those are extremely hard to deal with as a druid, but Looney, a little bit of a misplay there on his end. Usually he's very good at waiting for the recast and then immediately dispelling and going back into form. Unfortunately for him, it seems like he's a little bit out of form today.
Yeah, Method Black, obviously dominant victory, maybe a slight uncharacteristic error from Looney in that situation. And what I meant more was like, yes, Warwick's lost, but he lost to another Warlock, right? Like his team played RMD and they lost to LSD, so maybe that could be the only answer for the Rogue Mage Druid here. But Method Black, once again, in the driver's seat, is something we're used to saying. Are we going to continue saying it after the break? Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're at a series here between the two greatest teams of the spring season in Europe, Method Black against Wildcard Gaming, but Method Black so far has taken complete control of this series, 2-0 up and 1 game away from qualifying through to Sunday's top 3 on the broadcast. I'm Healing Star hosting. We have Ben Ruki, Supertees, and Eziko on the desk for this one. And I was actually talking a little bit during the break to Jamie, and he was explaining to me a little bit about how the Elemental meta has evolved, because personally I don't play Elemental, so I was curious. And he basically said, in the past, Elementals have been kind of running around with Ghost Wolf, right? Like we talked about it, the Pack Spirit and everything. But they found that over time, sitting in Ghost Wolf, they just get dampened, right? Like the Assassination Rogue eventually kills them because they're not doing any damage. So now actually they're playing different traits. They're not even using Pack Spirit anymore. They're going like Resounding Protection. They're Renewing Waters, so when they purge, they heal. And then they just spam purge, so they have the offense and the defense. And I mean, it worked out earlier for Zyzon. Jamie obviously was able to pull through with a victory, but here it hasn't been working out for Wildcard Gaming, and they do swap over their composition.
You were just saying, do you miss Walrix? Yep. Well, we're going to find out. Can Maro fill the Warlock shoes of Walrix here? They're on match point against Method Black.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tall order for Maro. This is not an easy team to make your Warlock debut. Looney, of course, and Zeepai, they're going to be the perfect teammates for them to help out Maro in this particular matchup, but this is going to be difficult. Maro, he's going to have to perform if they want any chance of beating a Rogue Mage Druid as high a caliber as Method Black.
Often you critique that there's not many mages that also play Warlocks, and there's not many Warlocks that also play mages. For some reason, just those two classes don't mix together. It's like putting oil and water together, just not going to work out. Looney blinded early, Zeepai the target. Again, interesting that they're focusing the Elemental Shaman. I wonder if Looney is going to be able to be as aggressive as Drainer was, because Method Black, I will say, don't play anywhere near to the same as Diabolus. I think that they can also play hyper-aggressive, and if you play hyper-aggressive against a Feral Affinity Resto Druid, then they're not going to be able to just toddle around like we saw Drainer able to do against Diabolus. So Looney will also be under a lot of pressure because he needs that Feral Affinity damage, but if Method Black flip the aggro switch and start going in and pushing forward, then he could easily be punished for even one mistake.
Yeah, Zeepai under fire in this matchup. Looney is already trinketed as well as traded out his Iron Bark, so Zeepai could be vulnerable during this next attempt. Wazzy still has the Vendetta. It's a good answer, though, for Zeepai with that Astral Shift. So standard cooldown trading so far in this matchup. This smaller map is going to make it difficult for Chaz to really escape and drink. A nice attempt here over onto Waz. He gets bursted down. Iron Bark is enough to deflect that kill opportunity from Wildcard Gaming, but now Method Black, they're looking to strike back. Bash over on the Looney. Is there any follow-up crowd control? R2UB gets denied with the Mortal Coil, and that's the one thing Maro kind of has going for him in this matchup, as he also plays Mage at a very high level. So on that Warlock, he knows exactly how R2UB wants to set up, and he can look to deny that just because he has as much experience as R2UB does playing Mage.
I think so far I find a bit peculiar is that he's used Dark Soul before Infernals. Maybe he was trying to bait a cooldown and save Infernals to peel, like such as this situation, stunning two members of Method Black into a Shadow Fury. Good shutdown on Maro's part here to protect Looney on the swap. R2UB now feeling the pain of a Lightning Lasso. Chaz is in a bash. R2UB's on the run. But Looney was playing aggressive, looking for crowd control, so he wasn't healing himself, and he was still kind of low on health. Now finally stabilized. Waz is overextended. He's taken two beefy lightning bolts from Zeepai. Looney is smacking him. He may need to be careful. Looney gets swapped to and set up on again by Method Black, so Method Black going for the similar strategy as Diabolus, trying to attack the Feral Affinity Druid. Now, if they do this, they need to make sure they're crowd controlling the Elemental and the Warlock. If they leave the Elemental, Shaman, and the Warlock open for too long, they're almost definitely going to get overwhelmed. Looney making a bit of a mistake, walking over and getting Cycloned. Zeepai's at low health. Maro fears Waz to protect Zeepai. Looney immediately running back to stun Waz out of the Lightning Lasso. This could be devastating for Waz. Big Earthshock hit here. Down below 50% health. No Iron Bark for 14 seconds. Waz stuns Zeepai, pausing the fight for now. Zeepai is reluctant to trinket out of this. He wants to make sure he has that to stay alive and trade cooldowns later on, but maybe he could have potentially netted a kill if he had a bit of damage. Maro is trying to bounce between stopping Chaz from drinking and also doing damage at the same time, and so far it hasn't really found an effective way to balance the two. Now polymorphed out in midfield, likely for an extended period of time. Chaz tries to jump across, but Maro catches him with a fear. Now casting Chaos Bolt, but denied by Waz. Good reaction, knowing that Nether Ward would have otherwise made Maro immune to counterspell or polymorph. Now Method Black pull away. They see Dark Soul activated. They just want to avoid Maro while that cooldown is active. As soon as it's over, we likely see them push forward again. Looney's tearing in, doing some extra damage onto Waz. Significant mana advantage for Wildcard Gaming, and I like the map selection on their part, realizing that they're going to run the Rogue Mage Druid out of mana faster with consistent pressure. Hook Point is the best map to stop a healer from drinking on. So this is good. So far, it's a solid strategy, and I would say good execution overall from Wildcard Gaming, and there is potential for them with this composition.
Yeah, Zeepai into a kitty shot. Good pressure here from Method Black. Looney's going to have to play catch-up. He's got the Innervate, so all of his heals are free of charge at this point. Not going to be costing any mana. He goes for the Tranquility. Good usage. Zeepai gets topped off. Waz and R2UB, they still have all their offensive cooldowns available when they want to decide to get a little bit aggressive. You look at mana, Chaz is way behind at this point in the game. He activates the Innervate, try to get some heals rolling, but on this smaller map, it's so unlikely he's going to be able to actually sneak away and recover his mana via drinking, so I have to see exactly what windows of opportunity Method Black can really create for Chaz to recover his mana, because that is exactly what this matchup could come down to.
All right, let's see what they can do. Chaz needs a drink. He's thirsty. He's so low on mana. Wildcard Gaming, do they stop him? Maro's polymorphed. He can't. Chaz is in the back line. Looney jumps into counter pressure, but I think they're letting Chaz get away with drinking. He's going to be coming back into the fight with full mana right as dampening started, and that advantage and the strategy that Wildcard Gaming were looking to employ is totally blown out now that Chaz comes back into the fight with full mana.
Yeah, Chaz with full mana. That was the moment of opportunity Method Black really needed. Now at 2% dampening, it's basically perfect timing for Method Black. Zeepai still under fire, and as we said, later on in the game, the Assassination Rogue, they're so powerful against the Elemental Shaman. Zeepai's going to have to try to find some moments to get aggressive, but I just don't know if he's going to be able to do it. Infernals get dropped out by Maro. He's going to be looking for solo pressure at this point, trying to counter pressure Method Black just a little bit, forcing them off Zeepai, but at this point, Method Black, they're all over him. A nice Cyclone lands by Chaz, denying any heals coming in from Looney. Do they have any follow-up crowd control? Icy Veins gets used by R2UB. Method Black looking to close close out the game. Silence on Zeepai into a full stun. Stun onto Looney. Good cross crowd control. Zeepai, he has to trinket out to escape. R2UB just doing way too much damage with that Icy Veins. He's trying to run, get across the map. Good fears coming in from Maro to help deny the silence on Looney. Zeepai barely holding on. He gets interrupted. Gateways away back to the pillar. And I think he bought himself enough time for Looney to finally play catch up. That was a really nice attempt by Method Black, but unfortunately just lacking a little bit of damage.
Good positioning from Zeepai, using that Demonic Gateway as soon as he was interrupted, baiting the counterspell so that Looney could save him later on. Really good positioning there in a dire situation. Definitely not panicking, showing that veteran experience on Wildcard Gaming. This composition, the substitution in for Maro, having seen the success that Zyzon had with it against Rogue Mage. Now Wildcard Gaming looking to employ it for their own here against Method Black. They looked solid earlier on, but a drink from Chaz has totally put Method Black back into the game. And I mean, it's still a significant advantage over Looney, who is actually now behind. R2UB setting up for some damage out of the Cyclone, casting Frostbolts, building up Icicles, Trinkets to get Ring of Frost out of the cheap shot that was set up for him. Chaz is in position. He gets Spell Lock out of the way while Looney is crowd controlled, so now he should be able to Cyclone. Mortal Coiled. Maro is stalling it long enough, but Zeepai's far away. Looney gates to get in line of sight, but it may be too little too late. Walks into a blind, gets silenced on the Trinket. Just a tad bit more crowd control and damage, and Zeepai will fall. Activates the Fire Blood, removes some of the damage over time effects onto himself, and manages to sneak around the corner and stay alive.
Yeah, Zeepai cheats death once again, but how many times can he pull that off in a game? It's going to become more and more difficult as dampening gets higher and higher. Wildcard Gaming, a few miracles in their favor in order for Zeepai to survive. Method Black gets a kidney shot, another attempt. Looney's got no trinket, he's in a full Cyclone. Zeepai, what are you going to do? Waz is all over you. R2UB, if he can get in line of sight, he can add that little bit of extra damage that they need, but unfortunately unable to find it. Ironbark fades from Zeepai. Looney doesn't have many tools left to keep him alive. Lightning Lasso onto Waz. Waz gets out, a nice Cyclone coming in from Chaz. This denies the heals from Looney and also allows R2UB Waz to start setting up some crowd control. There's a full kitty shot on Zeepai. Chaz moves forward. What does he get? The Rake's done. Over on the Looney. Is there any follow-up from R2UB? Doesn't look like it just yet. Zeepai might be able to hold on to a little bit longer. Maro doing everything he can, desperately trying to land Fears, trying to land Chaos Bolt, trying to set his team up for success, but Method Black, I mean, at this point, they're actually falling apart a little bit. That was a very long offensive push over onto Zeepai. Maybe Maro has done it. Maybe he's forced Method Black just a little bit defensive at this point in the game.
Infernals are up for Maro. He can activate those at any moment and could close the game out. Waz has no Glaire's Medallion, so Lightning Lasso plus Infernals, it's KO for Waz, and Wildcard Gaming will stay alive in the upper bracket, but Method Black can change their composition, and I'm sure that they have more than enough answers for the Elemental Shaman Warlock if the Rogue Mage ends up not working out, but it still seems pretty evenly matched in terms of compositions. Waz leads the charge. Maro's got Infernals rolling. He could set up for a big Chaos Bolt. They should maybe even try and kill Chaz. He's feared into midfield. Maybe an opportunity to switch to him. I don't think they're going to take it. They're focused more on just staying alive. Mortal Coil onto Waz and R2UB. Waz being pressured away. That Feral Affinity of Looney really adding into the mix. 3 targets are low on health. This is where the Warlock Shaman Druid starts to shine. Ice block netted from R2UB. 1 defensive objective out of the way. Finally, momentum for Wildcard Gaming. Chaz is bashed. Looney saves Zeepai during the kidney shot. Icy Veins for R2UB. His damage is enhanced. Zeepai with no defense in just a few seconds, but R2UB is just taking it at the moment. Any Chaos Bolt connects here. It could be a kill if R2UB is still on hypothermia. He's retreating back around the corner. Defensive Ring of Frost. Also catching on to Looney. That's going to be Astral Shift from Zeepai, but potentially Method Black are going to take it here. That Astral Shift is going to be fading. They sap out of the Ring of Frost. Beautifully timed here by Waz. Maro's in a poly. It's 3 on 1, and that is perfection, Method Black. Perfection.
Yeah, really well played by Method Black. Wildcard Gaming, actually, they did go the direction of the Warlock Elemental Shaman Druid. It looked good for a little while, mana lead and everything, but Method Black, too much experience and too good on the day.
Yep, it seems like Method Black was just too good, and I think the map as well really helps out Method Black because you shut down Chaz from drinking, but you also set up so many opportunities to line of sight Maro and still stick on Zeepai. In general, Waz is not going to be getting kited on the same degree as you would on a large map as well. And of course, R2UB has an easier time to land these crowd controls because he doesn't need to cross the map, go through the Warlock, and get, you know, spam coiled and things like that, interrupted with fears and whatnot. And here, of course, we see the cross CC being set up. Maro gets dispelled right there on that polymorph. Looney trinkets out of a blind, and then here comes the setup soon. Raikou is gonna have to duck for cover first because he is taking a little bit of damage. He is spell locked, so here's a close call for him, but you know, the spell lock fades, he gets out, and there it is. Ring of Frost catches Looney out of that stun that was set up for him. Chess, beautiful cyclone there on Maro to make sure that Maro can't stop Raikou, and then was with the resap into the cyclone there from Chaz, and that's going to be all they need. And setting up those 3 versus 1 situations as Rogue Mage Druid this deep into dampening, there's not really much you can do. And I think Zeepai played a phenomenal game here as well. I feel like most Ellie Shamans, they would have died, you know, a long time ago in this match. He lived on such low HP many times. Just wasn't enough today.
Yeah, it wasn't enough for them. This series in spring was actually 21-14 head-to-head in favor of Wildcard Gaming. They got the better of Method Black in the second half of the season, but here, Method Black, again, strong. You know, they won the first cup. They win this series 3-0. They will advance through to Sunday.